Hey guys, how's it going? We are live. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ginn. And on today's episode, we have Ed Hayes, the wholesale coach, here today to talk all about virtual wholesaling, really. I was talking to him yesterday, and it was a pretty interesting conversation we had. And he basically was telling me some stuff, and I learned from looking at his YouTube channel, he got two virtual wholesaling deals for under 2 cents, which is, I want to break that down, and I really want to see how he's doing this. But really, you can't get a million deals like that done for 2 cents, but he's getting virtual wholesaling done very cheap. And I want to break down how he's doing his business. And he's out of Las Vegas, and I'm super excited for it. So Ed, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Zach, I appreciate you having me on, my brother. Definitely looking forward to it.
Sweet, man. So I've been following you on YouTube for a while, ever since I started. So it's pretty cool to actually see the people that you've been seeing online for a while. So pretty exciting. Thank you so much for coming on. But for the people who don't know who you are, which I don't think there's a lot, hopefully anymore, but who is Ed Hayes? Who are you? And what do you do with real estate wholesaling?
Yeah, great question. So, I'm Ed Hayes, as Zach said. I've been out here in the wholesaling game since 2016. I'm originally from Chicago. We've done a ton of deals out in Chicago as well as nationwide. I really like the virtual space now that I'm out here in Las Vegas. I've just so happened to have to kind of shift back out to Chicago lately, keep doing virtual wholesale deals. So man, we've been out here for a while. I'm on YouTube as well as Ed Hayes, the Wholesale Coach. Definitely check it out. Man, we're out here just providing value. Trying to make some stuff happen.
I love it, man. I love it. So you always provide great free content. And there's so much I want to break down today, because there's some stuff I don't think I've talked to you before that I've been asked questions, and I was like, Ed Hayes talks about that. So I got plenty of this stuff. I'm pretty excited, but what was your story getting into real estate wholesaling?
Great question, man. So honestly, it's kind of crazy, man. I'm not going to lie. Like, before I actually started, when I first found out about wholesaling, I was working as a certified nursing assistant, a CNA, and I was literally having to wake up at like 5 a.m. to go wipe butts every day. It was tragic, man. It was paying the bills, but it was tragic, and long story short, I had an opportunity to go work for a lady who was a resident at the nursing home that I was working at. And she asked me to be her at-home caregiver. And then, I agreed she was going to pay me more money under the table than what my job was paying me. And like I said, I just found out about wholesaling. But long story short, she ended up passing away about a couple weeks into me working for her. So my back was up against the wall, and it was like, hey, look, you've got to get these wholesale deals or you're literally going to be homeless. And it wasn't just me. It was my now wife and my stepdaughter. They were depending on me to make it happen. So it ended up taking me a couple months to actually get my first deal. It was out in Chicago. I did I was running Google ads. I was doing it for $8 a day. And just so happened day 4 or 5, some random guy, this hood guy, calls me yeah, man, I just got out the pen, and and he had a building that he wanted to sell. It was a probate lead. It was crazy. Man, it's a crazy story how I actually got the first deal, but that was back in 2016. And, since then we've done well over 100 deals around the nation. I made $8,000 on that first deal, and I just never looked back.
Wow.
So yeah, man, it's pretty crazy, man.
So Chicago's a crazy market. Want to talk about a couple things on there. So first of all, congrats. I did see you had a kid, so congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Definitely changes your perspective a lot on wholesaling. So my first question would be, having a kid, obviously you had a stepchild, but having another baby, does that change the way you look at wholesaling or the way your business runs?
I wouldn't necessarily say the business. Well, yeah, to a certain degree, yes. That because, one thing that I did last year while my wife was pregnant was that, I started taking some time off, right? I started taking time to kind of step away, right? And just be wholesaling itself is a very, very active job, as we know, right? It's an active business. You kind of have to be in it for the most part. Right. So, I decided to kind of take a step back a little bit while my wife is pregnant so I can be there for my family. But now, since we've had the baby, now my full firm focus has just been on trying to actually be the buyer, just getting out here, trying to purchase my own properties out here now. So it definitely has kind of shifted things because, one of my biggest motivations of getting into business was to kind of be there with my family. So, being able to be the buyer and get bigger chunks of the deals is kind of what I'm looking at now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, man.
And so, and originally in Chicago, what brought you from Chicago to Las Vegas?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, there's a lot of different reasons, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, so, the weather for one, they had towed my car like twice and damaged it once. Like it was just so much, man. Chicago has some of the highest taxes in all of America. Nevada has the fourth lowest. It was just a lot of different reasons. Not to mention, I have like some really close friends out here as well. So I knew I can kind of get out here and make some things happen with some people that I knew right off the bat. But it was a litany of reasons. Not to mention, I lived my entire life in Chicago. So, I just wanted kind of like a breath of fresh air. But just for the record, I'm probably not going to be staying here for very, very long. I initially coming in, I was only planning on being here for maybe 2-3 years, but I think I'm going to get up out of here at the end of, around this time next year.
Okay. And is the decision wherever you're going to move to next going to be wholesaling related, do you think? Or is it going to be like personal? Or you're going to do the virtual stuff?
Yeah, good question. So, I always have that option of doing virtual deals. I can literally move to Aruba and still be doing these deals, no problem. Right. So I love that about virtual wholesaling specifically. But yeah, definitely, my choice will be kind of location specific, depending on what I can do in those areas. That's also another part of the reason what brought me to Nevada, actually, because Nevada is a reciprocal state to Illinois, and I'm a licensed real estate agent out in Illinois. So I was able to just kind of transition my license out here by just taking the state exam.
Perfect. The next transition of this is obviously, let's say I got to go move somewhere. You're looking to move somewhere, and I want to go to a place where wholesaling was good or it's a good market. What are some tips you can give, or how are you researching places for if you're going to live? That's not about like how cool the city is, the weather, but how are you researching a good market to see if it's good for you possibly to move there and start wholesaling or getting there for virtual?
Yeah, great question. So, like full disclosure, whatever. I haven't actively started vetting the next area that I'm gonna live in specifically yet. But like before I actually moved here, some of the things that I was looking into were, taxes. Seeing like how hot, quote unquote, the market is. I like to do some research on I'll do like the list source hack where people go there and find out like the hottest zip codes and things of that nature. I'll go to realtor.com, type in some zip codes around like some very populated type of areas, see what areas are really kind of getting the most home sales, kind of backtrack it from there. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't have any like one perfect method, but I do also have the privilege of working with people from all across the nation and talking to people from all across the nation. So I tend to have a pulse of what's going on around the nation.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So my question here is, I need to know, how did you get 2 deals for 2 cents? Whew. Let's explain it. And also, you did this in Chicago, Illinois, where if I posted that deal, someone would say that's fake. You can't wholesale in Chicago. The FBI is gonna go knock on your door and put you in jail forever. Right, how are you doing this in Chicago? How are you getting it for so cheap? I need to know.
Hey, I got you. I'm going to drop the value on the community today. So when it comes to actually like what marketing I'm using text messaging. And I'm specifically using a company for text messaging called REI Reply. I've been using them for almost a year now, I think. So they've been really, really good for us. They're getting the job done. And like literally, so like the system itself is like $50 or whatever. But then for the price of the text to actually send out the text is literally less than a penny per text and per ringless voicemail drop. So literally, so it's less than 2 cents for one message, right? Technically, each lead that we got, like each one of these deals, it probably actually costs like 2.5 cents. I think I probably had texted in like 3 times by the time that they actually replied back. But that's what I like about REI Reply, because it just kind of does it for us versus us having to send out those individual text messages every time. So yeah, like we just reached out to these individuals via text. We responded to them. I hopped on some phone calls with these people. In fact, I just made a video about it recently on YouTube, as you know, or whatever, kind of breaking down that process and the conversations that I was having with those people, as well as the numbers behind those deals. And we're actively, for the 4-unit property, is 2 opportunities that we came across. The 4-unit, we're actually considering grabbing it for ourselves.
Nice.
So yeah,
wow.
man.
I'm telling you, like if I'm looking for a property just for me, I make a bunch of money wholesaling and I just want to put that into investing, just buy some wholesale deals. They're better deals than you ever get on the MLS. But
Facts.
so Chicago, how were you able to wholesale there? I know the answer, but a lot of people get told automatically that wholesaling is illegal in Chicago.
Right.
So how are you able to do it in there?
Yeah, great question. So I am a licensed agent out in Illinois. So you would need to either be a licensed agent in Illinois or be linked up with an agent who will pretty much put their name on the contracts and things of that nature. And honestly, like they say that you can do one. The law says that you can do one deal in Illinois per year without, having to get a license. But in all reality, the vast majority of the title companies out there have been put on notice. So they don't really work with just random wholesalers. Like you have to be licensed out there.
Okay. And that market's still good, do you think? I mean, what's your opinion on the Chicago wholesaling market?
I'm not gonna lie to you. Look, I don't want all of the people that's watching this to start diving into it, but I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been pretty crazy for us lately with like the list that we've been pulling out there. It's been kind of ridiculous, to be honest. Like everyone's saying yes. Yeah, in an extremely good way. Let's put it like that. But to be honest, like I think that, a lot of these areas that are kind of like plighted by violence and things like that, it seems like very often, like areas in Ohio and places like that, it's very like people want to leave. They're trying to get out of there because there's so much violence going on. So you're gonna get a lot of yeses where there's more distress naturally in that area. So Chicago has definitely still been hitting really, really hard for us lately.
Okay, that's interesting. So is it like lower price point properties are you going for? Are you going for like the suburbs? Like what? I don't want to give too much of the secrets because you're obviously doing well there, but generally in a regular market, is that something you'd be doing?
Yeah. So you're saying like going after the city or the suburbs? Say that one more time. What's the question?
Yeah. So are you going after like a higher price point areas? Because Chicago gets expensive, and then there's some really cheap areas. So like what area are you kind of going after?
Good question. So typically we're targeting properties that are valued at $300,000 or less. And actively right now, we're just targeting all of Cook County, which is the largest county in America. So there's more than enough people that kind of fit that criteria. And there's other filters as well. One of my favorite lists to pull, period, no matter what market I'm working in, are vacant absentee owners list with high equity. So that's some free game right there for the community.
Perfect. So where are you pulling your data?
Very often I'm using PropStream and also like another service that Antoine Campbell talks a lot about called List Shack Pro. Okay. So primarily in the past I've used other services. This other service I really liked a lot was REWW, Kent Clothier's software.
Oh yeah, Kent Clothier. Shout out to him. So overall, those are really good ones, I would say. So what are your top lists to pull then? Obviously, you gave a little bit of the other ones, but any other lists that you like to go after or some like niche lists that nobody knows about?
Yeah, good question. So another list that has historically kind of hit really hard for us out in Chicago specifically is the tax delinquent list. Yeah. Granted, a lot of people tend to reach out to those individuals. So I like to kind of filter it down as much as possible whenever possible. So historically, like I said, like the vacant absentee owners with high equity have kind of done us like the best service. Let's put it like that. Oh, excuse me. But I did make a video on YouTube recently where I was kind of talking about like my favorite list that I would pull for 2021. And we have been pulling these lists that would also include like these the pre-probate properties that they have on PropStream. Now, I'll be honest, though, 100% honesty with the pre-probate leads from PropStream. It's been kind of hard to come across these individuals for me personally, but I guess that's a whole nother story or whatever. So outside of those, though, zombie properties on PropStream, which are pretty much just vacant pre-foreclosures. It's like but just kind of like some of those quick lists that are inside of PropStream are also like some of my favorites. Like sometimes I'll just pull like the tired landlords list, for instance, or just the high equity list, for instance. So, but honestly, it's really just the same stuff that everyone else is pulling. But actively following up with these people and actively having conversations with individuals and not just leaving them inside the text message without actually following up with them.
Definitely. So I know you're doing a lot of SMS text blasting, and I know, like me, you've been pretty well versed in the Trace Act. So my question is, June 2nd, right? Has your SMS business just been completely destroyed? Is your result zero? Is the sky falling? Like what's going on?
Absolutely not, man. At least not right at this moment. As far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, if you know, I'm not sure, but I don't think that they have anything set up for text as of right now to actually monitor this stuff. Right. So
it's a lot of fear.
Meantime, I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So your business is going right, running. I mean, it's for me, my SMS is good as ever. Obviously, this can change, but I just think there's a lot of fear being done in the wholesale community that is just a little too much. Go do my cold calling thing, do my direct mail thing. I mean, they don't do SMS. It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So SMS is still good for me. So that's good to hear. That's just not me. So obviously you're big in SMS. What are other top marketing strategies specifically for you and your virtual wholesaling business?
Yeah, great question. So outside of text messaging, honestly, that's pretty much just like the primary resource that we're using actively right now. In the past, we have done some direct mail in the past, which has worked out pretty decent, semi-decently or whatever. I actually just did some direct mail recently. It came out kind of horribly. But primarily just text messaging as well as cold calling. Those have been primarily like the main contributors to our success. But I have tinkered with some other things in terms of like hiring people from like Craigslist to put out bandit signs in a virtual market for us, things like that. And something else that I was going to say, as well as like just doing some JV deals as well in virtual markets, just reaching out to individuals who already have deals under contract and like Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, Craigslist, places like that, reaching out to other wholesalers who already have deals and helping them slam dunk those deals pretty much as well.
Perfect. I mean, I love JVing deals ever since I created this YouTube channel. I mean, I've been doing a lot of JV deals and it's been really helpful for me. So
absolutely.
It's just building a personal brand for you. I think is another way you can start getting wholesaling deals. You don't have to have a crazy YouTube, just have a Facebook and start connecting with people. I think it's huge. So you also have a really interesting Facebook group, right?
Yeah, I do. It used to be called Wholesale Deals and Strategies, but now it's called Wholesaling Houses to Finish. Boom.
You guys, if you want JV with Ed, go there. Come
reach out.
So when you're JVing a deal, how are you, what is you doing? So are you getting someone who has a contract and they're finding a buyer, or are you getting the contract and then you're having someone who has the buyer? What's the process with you for JVing?
Yeah, great question. So I'm typically the person with the buyers. Like we do have a list of nationwide cash buyers list of thousands of individuals. So, a lot of times I'm just reaching out to people, seeing if they have the deal under contract already, seeing what the terms are, making sure kind of vetting it on our end. And then we pretty much connect the wholesaler to the end buyer. So, yeah.
Okay.
We're playing dispo out here. So, yeah.
I love it. So, let's say somebody is watching this and, they're talking to this one person on like a wholesaling group or whatever. And they say, I know I'm virtually out here in Canada, but I have this contract here in, whatever city that you live in. And they say, hey, can you help me find a buyer for us and JV with me? What is the process that someone who's brand new should do if, let's say, they have a buyer ready for it to make sure they don't get screwed? What's the whole process looking like?
That's a really, really good question. So actually inside of my course, I have a video where I talk about this specifically, but I'll kind of give you like some tips from that, like some pointers. Like one of the things is, first off, like, what do you have it under contract? I would be asking a series of questions. First off, like before I even decide to work with this individuals, I need to get answers to certain questions. I don't want it to feel like an FBI interview or anything like that. But at the same time, like, I don't want to be wasting my time or my buyer's time. So, excuse me. Some of the questions that I'll be asking is, how long have you had this property under contract? Are you actually direct to the seller? What feedback have you gotten from other buyers? Did I say how long have you had it under contract? Did I say that?
I think you asked if they had it under contract.
Right. Boom. And then how long have you had it under contract? So it's a lot of questions that you want to ask to really get a feel for what's going on with this property. Also, I would want that person to have marketing material already established. So I'm not like creating a whole buyer's package, quote unquote, to send out to people. I want this taken care of already, as well as like comps, things like that. Access instructions are also very, very important. You want to know how your buyers are going to be able to get inside of a property, all of that good stuff. Now, you're not necessarily going to ask every single one of those questions every time you're trying to do a deal with someone and stuff like that. But trust me, you'll do yourself a favor by asking the majority of them, or at least the ones that are relevant in your scenario. Now, from there, then, I'm going to pretty much ask that person, hey, if it's all right with you, I'm going to shoot this out to a few people that I think may be interested. They'll be like, okay, great. Then from there, like, I'll start shopping it out once I've gotten that pretty much like written verbal agreement from the wholesaler to shop that property out. I'll start shopping it out to my in-house list of buyers. And, if I do have someone who's interested or wants to go check it out, that's when I'll reach back out to the other wholesaler, let them know like, hey, I'm going to shoot you over the agreement now. And I'll confirm with the buyer what time they're going to go out to the property, things of that nature. If the person wants to go out and go see it at that point, then, we're pretty much just processing. We'll go ahead and have the buyer sign on the assignment contract, have the JV agreement with the other wholesaler already established before my buyer even goes out there. Right. And then from there, we're pretty much at title. We're ready to go at that point.
Awesome. So yeah. The one other thing I did have to ask is, so I get thrown so many JV deals every single day, basically.
Same.
And the problem is most of them are absolutely terrible. Like, they're just like, there's no meat on the bone. It's not there. So how are you underwriting these deals? Because that's honestly the number one thing I look at. Like, it's cool that the person's good or not, but a lot of these deals just suck. So how do you know the difference between a good deal and a bad deal, especially if it's a market that you don't know?
Right. That's a really, really good question. And sometimes, so like most of the time, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I want to be able to briefly see whether this deal makes sense or not. So like a lot of times, I'll have a property. I'll go over to like a realtor.com and a PropStream, pop the property open, see whether their numbers make sense. Because like, first off, like, I'm not trying to like reinvent the wheel or take 2-3 hours to analyze this property. They should already have this figured out first off. And if not, then that kind of automatically disqualifies that property for me to check it out, unless I can like just clearly see like this is a no-brainer type of deal without me having to do anything. So then from there, like, a lot of these deals do suck, like you said, the majority of them. So it's just like, if you're calling sellers or buyers or whatever, the majority of things aren't going to work. So like when you do come across those ones that do, like, you have to be able to analyze them. So I'm typically going to pop an open. I want to be able to quickly kind of verify whether these numbers make sense. If it is a market that I'm not familiar with, a lot of times I'll reach out to an agent in that area and ask them if they can give me some comps on this property. Let them know, I'm thinking about buying something in that area. Can you tell me what you think that this property could be worth on the market? Something like that. So that's helped us out in plenty of situations. But yeah, I mean, like, you got to be able to move quickly pretty much and just analyze based off what you see. And sometimes, if you already have buyers in that area, then you can simply reach out to John and be like, hey, John, I came up with this opportunity. Let me know if you'd be interested in it. Bang. And just send it to him. You know what I mean? And just ask them like, hey, I'm not sure. I haven't even looked into it yet, but let me know what you think about this. Boom.
Perfect. I mean, yes, a lot of them do suck, but there's some $20,000, $30,000 deals I've done easily through JVing. So it's definitely good looking through the haystack for it. But that's something I would agree on there. So the next part here is, obviously you're into cold calling. You do a lot of the SMS. We've talked about list pulling. Now let's talk about cash buyers. How are you finding cash buyers, especially on a virtual wholesaling deal? It looks like you said you had a national cash buyer database. So the first question would be, how are you getting a national cash buyer database?
Yeah, so like the majority of it has come from cold calling, like in previous years, just from having a VA on deck who primary job was just to cold call buyers pretty much. And like, I still actually want to kind of re-implement that. I don't have anyone actively calling buyers now, but we also have an online form that people can just fill out and join our cash buyers list. But to be 100% honest, I really prefer like the actual conversation with people, because when you just have a forum online, it ends up being just like a majority of wholesalers. Yeah. Right. So, but like to fully answer that question, I really, there are like a few like niche sources that I tend not to talk about too often online, because I don't want things to get too saturated and all of a sudden this source doesn't exist anymore. But like one of the sources that I do use is PropStream. Like, we'll just pull a list from PropStream and just reach out to some cash buyers in the area. I'm not gonna lie though, like the conversion rate with PropStream is lower than like kind of like my secret sauce type of strategy. But I actually, hold on. Can you see me still or am I off?
No, I think your thing popped off.
Oh, snaps. Hold on.
Might need to pop it back on. Are you using like a DSLR camera?
Yeah.
It probably timed out on you.
Now, let me see.
But I would say overall, I mean, that's a really good way. I do think it's pretty good. But when it comes to cash buyers, I mean, it's so interesting because cash buyers can just make or break the business there. So it's overall, it's crazy. But we got Ed back. So pretty exciting here. The one other thing I want to talk about is I know you did a couple of videos. I watch a lot of your videos, by the way, just because I like learning how the wholesaling community is being taught. I do a lot of teaching. You do a lot of teaching of it. And I like knowing how like some of the important people are teaching it. So you've talked about skip tracing with this one service. I've been DM'd so many times on Versium.
Yeah, Versium Reach, yeah.
What is that? What's the cost of it? And explain it to me because I've been asked 100 times. And I'm like, I haven't looked at it, but I know Ed Hayes talks about it. And that's probably why you're asking me. So what is it?
Yeah, so Versium is a great company, man. I'm not gonna lie. To me, it's kind of like my secret sauce. That's another one of like the secret sauce type situations.
You made a video on it, so I'm not revealing it.
Yeah, right. It's definitely not. But honestly, like it's been an absolute game changer for our business. I genuinely mean that from my heart. Just because skip tracing very often can be by far the most expensive part about running your business, right? So what Versium is pretty much a skip tracing company, right? Like they're kind of known for like online audience building, though. They're kind of known for like people who run ads on Facebook and stuff like that. However, it's still the same data. It's still like individuals. You can get their phone numbers and information essentially. So they have an option inside of there called, I think it's called Contact Append Plus. And it allows me to just skip trace for mobile numbers, or I can just skip trace for like the best phone number, or I can get multiple phone numbers. I can search for everyone who may be connected. So like a household search or just an individual search. It's really, really nice. But long story short, it's $300 per month for 15,000 skip traces, but they lock you in for a year. So that kind of is a catch for some people that may not work. For others, they're like, look, like I'm saving like crazy amounts because I'm getting so much more for so much less. So It's kind of like a pick your poison type of thing.
Yeah, I think you got to just look at your the economies of scale with it. Some people works a lot. I mean, for me, that'd be a steal. So I'm definitely looking that up. How do you spell that really quick? Do you know?
Yeah, so it's VER.
Okay.
SIUM. Reach, like I'm reaching out and grabbing you.
Got it.
Versium Reach, check it out. Look, make sure y'all tell them Ed Hayes sent y'all. They know me over there. Look, tell Ryan I said hi.
I love it, man. So the next thing I want to talk about is you did make another video on this, so I wanted to bring it up. It not clickbait, but it is true half the time. But I mean, you did fire your staff, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I had to get rid of
it. On that, I really want to go into details on that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was very upsetting, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Very upsetting situation. So, getting down here in Las Vegas, I pretty much organized this massive, like beautifully organized campaign, right? And so like we had everything that you could possibly need. We even literally went out and got unemployment insurance and workers' compensation and like everything. Wow. So like do it ultra legitimately, get out here and really dominate this Vegas market, right? So it's really upsetting. Let me just say that. Yeah. But I haven't given up yet. I haven't given up on Vegas or whatever. But pretty much what happened was that I had brought on an acquisition manager so the campaign was set to start at the beginning of Q2, April 1st. I brought on an acquisition manager about like March 15th-ish, something like that. Had many conversations with him, let him know, hey, look, it's a fully commission-based job, and like I set it up so nicely to where this person, if it had an equity stake in our deals, like, so if we did like a buy and hold, like they would cash flow with us for 2 years. Like, it was crazy. Like I was putting them in, I was literally giving them a seat right next to me at the table. Like literally it was my right hand man. That's what it was supposed to be. And I was giving like ridiculous percentages in my mind, at least. Right. So, but this person, he reaches out to me literally the day before the campaign launches March 31st, he reaches out like, hey, Ed, like, I feel like I should be an employee instead with commission, And like pretty much was proposing to me that I pay him $20 an hour and give him a commission or whatever, literally the day
Nice.
before our campaign launches. I'm like, really? Really? So it's like, I don't know. I just felt like he was like trying to stab me in the back. That's what it felt like. It felt so like, come on, man, give me a break, man. So long story short, I end up having to just let him kind of go on to his own device, like, hey, man, look, I'm not going to do that or whatever. I don't even know whether you can get the job done or not. You can just be out here trying to finesse me. I'm not about to give you unemployment compensation, and I haven't seen you do anything yet. You got to start with some type of trial basis or something. This is real estate. This is sales. It's not like you working at Kmart or McDonald's or something like that. I only get paid. I mean, like, the company only makes money if they're actually out there doing work. So I don't know whether they're going to do it anyway. So I had to let him go. And then I had a virtual assistant as well. I was trying to hire an American, but it just seemed like Americans just didn't want jobs for some reason. So, all this PPP money was going out around that time or whatever as well. So, but anyway, so I brought on this virtual assistant to make phone calls and answer phone calls as it was coming in and things of that nature. We're doing a lot of different marketing strategies. So it's supposed to be like a lot of calls coming in. Long story short, over the first 3 days, I had them working for, it's supposed to be 8 hours a day. They had ultimately worked about 13 hours out of those 24 hours. And I was just like, look, man, I'm going to have to let you go. Like, because you're literally not even getting the job done. Like, this is the very beginning of the campaign. You're just not even here. So I had to literally fire my entire staff. It was only those two people, granted, but still, I had to get rid of them. And actually, since I made that video, I talked about another virtual assistant that I had to get rid of them too since then. So just an update for people who did see the video. It's tragic out here.
Oh my God. I mean, labor is so tight right now, even for virtual assistants. It's crazy. But I mean, it's a bad employee will wreck your business. So you did make a good decision there. So that's a funny story, but not funny.
It's crazy, man.
At the same time, it's a big lesson.
Yeah, man.
So
it happens.
Yeah. The last thing about virtual wholesaling I want to talk about, probably the most important one besides marketing, is acquisitions. You're very good in acquisitions, and you've been teaching people acquisitions for a while.
Yeah, man.
So I want to know what your SMS text blasting acquisitions process looks like. How are you getting these deals? How are you having conversations and overcoming objections through SMS text blasting? Just like, what's a good SMS deal? What do you do? Like, what's the whole process looking like for you?
Yeah, great question, man. So, I mean, with texting, like I said, I'm typically but I'm using REI Reply to get our text messages sent out. With REI Reply, it's connected to Twilio and stuff like that. So you have to pay per text and stuff like that. So we set up campaigns of 50 texts per hour for 8 hours a day. So that's, in other words, that's 400 texts per day that we're sending out, and we're sending them out 6 days out the week. So overall, we're going through about 9,600 leads per month, like right at this current moment or whatever, at the current pace. And I found that that's been really, really hitting for us, as well as some other people that I coach as well or whatever. So, but with those 400 texts, pretty much like once we send them out, the good thing about REI Reply is that, the majority of people don't actually reply back to the very first text message. But REI Reply is like, it'll send like a text, and then it'll send like a ringless voicemail drop like 5 minutes later, and then it'll send like another text like 3 hours later. That's actually where we've seen like the best results. Like on that second text, pretty much, is when the majority of people have been responding to us. So inside of REI Reply, like they have like these standard messages that you can send out, but I never use those. Like I actually write out my own message. And instead of just saying like, hey, John, how's it going? Or something like that, and assuming that it's that person on the other end of the line. Instead, what we do is we're kind of asking for forgiveness. It's like, hi, sorry, this is out the blue, but my name is Ed, and I'm looking for a property in Chicago, and I came across 123 Main Street. Are you the right person to ask about it? That's how like our text, that initial text is coming out. Then we're sending like a similar voicemail, as well as then like the next message, like, hi, I called earlier about 123 Main Street. Would you consider an offer on it? And that's typically where we get the most replies back. Now, once we get that actual reply back, then we're pretty much processing. Honestly, it's pretty much just handling them like any other lead that you would get in your funnel. So typically, like from that text, from that, yes, sure, what's your offer? Make me an offer, things like that. We're immediately, as soon as possible, trying to get on a phone call with these individuals. There definitely is. I've tested this. There's a direct correlation between how many people say yes and actually make it through the entire process between like it's a correlation between that and how quickly you respond back to them on the text message, because it could have been the best lead ever, but you took an hour to reply back. When people are texting you, you're actively in a conversation with these people. So like they're expecting for you to be replying back right away. And when you don't, it's kind of like a disconnect there and you seem like a shady individual. Yeah. So that's one thing that I definitely have noticed. But so we're trying to hop on a phone call immediately. Once we're on that phone call, we're just processing, right? We're just talking to them about the property. We're trying to get information, building up rapport, finding out what their why is, why they're really looking to sell, and generally getting a feel for what they believe that the repairs are going to cost and when can we get inside to actually check it out or whatever, get some pics and video of the inside. That's definitely something we like to do. We're not really trying to make very many, if any, offers sight unseen, unless the numbers are just like a no-brainer. But they're trying to give this downtown condo away for like $100,000 or something. That's a no-brainer. You know, outside of that, you know, we're going to want to go out to the property. Then we'll set up a time to go see the property. Obviously, I'm virtual right now, right? So I'm blessed that in Chicago, I actually have boots on the ground, like my brothers, family members, friends that I have out there can actually go out to these properties. If I'm in another virtual market where I don't have boots on the ground yet, I'll reach out to someone on Craigslist, or I just recently found out another company called Velocity Reos that have picture takers nationwide. This is crazy. Like I've never even heard of them or whatever. I'm like, wow. So it's companies out there that you all can have go out and take your pictures for you nationwide. So if you're doing these virtual deals, these guys will be a godsend for you. Pretty much at that point, you know, we're just signing contracts. It's pretty much just like any other deal at that point. I don't want to over-labor it. Let's put it like that.
Okay. Yep. And so are you using like Dotloop, DocuSign? How are you getting these contracts done?
Yeah, great question. So we use Sign now. We use DocuSign for years, but for me, Sign now is just significantly easier to use.
Okay, cool. And then obviously for the Dispo, you have people in Chicago. So that's pretty interesting. So when you're actually getting the thing signed, are you on the phone with the seller or do you just send them an email? Like what's that process looking like?
Yeah, so typically I'm having the conversation about what the numbers are going to be on a phone call with the seller, and then I'll just shoot them over the contract via Sign Now if they actually are interested in it. Even if they aren't interested in it, very often we still send them the offer and let them know like, hey, this offer is still available for the next 14 days. Let's put it like that. So we'll kind of leave it on the table for them to kind of make that decision. More often than not, like if we've already had this conversation about the numbers, people are going to want to sign on that contract. Sometimes it happens sooner than others.
Perfect. Guys, before we get in the audience questions, remember, you need to comment below what your question is so you can ask Ed here. Very rare opportunity to get to talk to Ed. Get your questions answered from him. So my last question for you before we start hopping everyone on here is, how are you coming up with your offers, your MAO? What is your process? Because there's a lot of conflicting information and you're legit in this business. So how do you see a property, let's say virtually, and how do you know if it's good or not? What should I offer? What's the whole process looking like for you?
Oh, great question, man. Great question. So like typically, if we're going to analyze a deal, we want to have a good feel for the area, right? So in Chicago, I can do this like the back of my hand. You've seen so many properties, the areas, like, look, I literally sold a property 5 doors down. I know how much this is worth, so on and so forth, right? But it's not always that easy, right? So we want to get a general feel for what the ARV is. Don't get me wrong. Very often, I'll look at the 0.7 minus repairs, minus your assignment fee, things like that. But I never want to be kind of caught inside of those formulas. I feel like that's just a box. That's just kind of like a template so we can get a general feel for what it can do, especially now with me being the buyer. I think very often wholesalers don't even consider things like closing cost, like interest payments this person is going to have to make to their hard money lender and things like that. Or even the fact that they're going to be using a hard money lender. Most wholesalers, like, they're thinking, oh yeah, this person is going to have $300,000 in the bank. Most people are using hard money. Most people are using lenders to get these deals. Yeah, they're cash buyers. Yeah, they have to come with like 10% of this $300,000 purchase. You know what I mean? So things like that or whatever. So, typically I'm looking at every single deal through the eyes of, what does it look like if I'm going to buy it? And I think that that's what we all have to do as wholesalers to really get a grasp on what makes sense is would it make sense for me? Do the numbers make sense? Right. So like once you've got a firm ARV, then I feel like the magic can really happen. Once we know fully like what the property could sell for, even if you have to reach out to agents in the area, do some really, really deep dive analysis on PropStream or Realtor.com, wherever. Once you establish that ARV, then we can kind of take it from there and see realistically, if I were to purchase this property, what would it look like? What are my options? And I feel like that's the best way to kind of determine what's a deal and what's not, right? So I want to see like, okay, does this area have appreciation? If I was going to buy it, will it appreciate 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What are there like hospitals and police stations and schools and parks nearby this property and things of that nature? Because that may give it a little bit more pizzazz than like a standard like hood area or something like that. The numbers may be a little bit different. I may be willing to pay more for that location versus like this location. I may specifically need to pay less in this location. So it's a lot of different factors. I'll be honest with you. I feel like there's no one perfect way. I feel like you have to take each deal on a property by property basis. Like my mentor told me one time, he said, never fall in love with the property, fall in love with the numbers. Yes. So the numbers are all that really, really matters at the end of the day. So like the 0.7 minus the repairs, minus your assignment fee, typically that's going to give you a general rule of thumb, but you really have to just think practically and put yourself in the buyer's seat. Even if you need to go talk to some hard money lenders and find out how much it would cost for you to actually be able to get this property yourself. Reach out to the banks, find out how much it will cost for you to get this property yourself. Now you're genuinely going to know whether this makes sense or not. And now you can pitch it better to a buyer because you're a buyer, at least mentally. Even if you aren't buying the properties, you know what a buyer thinks like. You know what a buyer is looking for because you take yourself through that process of how does a buyer think?
Perfect. Great answer. Let's get some questions going on here. So we got someone from my group says, Yo, Ed, your videos help me get started. Super lit, Zach.
Let's go.
Ray wants to know if you had any mentors or did you learn this business on your own?
Yeah, Ray, good old Ray. Yeah, I've seen you before, Ray. But yeah, man. So yeah, I did have mentors along the way. Honestly, like my very first mentor kind of burned me. Like they just weren't there for me. I'm getting grilled on conversations and stuff like that. With like attorneys and stuff like that. But it was really my second mentor that actually kind of showed me how to do the virtual wholesaling space and really kind of turn the business into a business. So yeah, I definitely had a mentor. His name's Reggie out in Chicago. I still talk to him to this day though.
Awesome. Sweet. Loving the info on this call. Shout out Ed. Started watching him first on my journey. That's awesome.
Hey, the right way.
Robert asks, do you have to facilitate your wholesale deal through a broker or do you just disclose you're an agent on your buy contract?
Really, really good question, Robert, for real. So in Chicago, there's like a lot of disclosures that take place when you're trying to close a deal out there. So like it's actual paperwork, like a very clear, like this cannot be misinterpreted type of document that will pretty much lay out like, hey, this person is an agent and they're going to be making this amount on your property or whatever. It's very, 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 very clearly laid out. So it's no confusion, and the seller, the buyer, wholesale, like everyone has to be signing off on this stuff. So it's no real getting around it. Okay. So yeah, but you don't have to do it through a brokerage though. You can just go through a regular title company. In fact, like my brokerage, like, I'm not like telling my broker, hey, I'm out here doing wholesale deals, because I'm representing myself on that transaction. Yeah. So you don't have to go through the brokerage. You just go through the title company.
Perfect. Yeah. Cheyenne wants to know can you virtually wholesale from New York City? So
absolutely. Look, you already know. Yeah, you can definitely do virtual deals in NYC. And look, if you're in NYC, you might want to look for some stuff that's right around you. Philly, New Jersey, a lot of areas out there are definitely hitting.
Awesome. August wants to know, I think this is obvious for you, but would you prefer batch leads or REI reply?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of REI reply. I'm not going to lie. I am an affiliate, just full disclosure, whatever. And just to be honest, like I feel like I haven't had a very thorough experience with batch leads, to be 100% honest. Yeah. So it's kind of hard. I feel like I'm obviously biased when it comes to that. So REI reply for me. It gets the job done. Yeah, it gets the job done, man. So don't fix what's not broken.
That's what I'm saying. How do you deal with vacant property showings?
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
I guess I would say virtually. So how are you doing with property showings if you're virtual then through a cash buyer?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. So typically we're going to have someone go out to the property. I'm not very often I'm hiring someone using like a Craigslist to be able to go out to the property and get some pics and video. Preferably, I like to have friends, family, people that I know out in that area, have established a relationship with, even another wholesaler off of like a Facebook or something like that, that I can trust to go over there and get some pics and video for me. I've even done that for other people before as well.
Perfect. Luke and Mill asks, is Velocity Reo free?
No, it's not free. But I do believe that like it's very affordable though. Like the most expensive package that they have on the site, I think is like $89 or something. So it's like you can't beat it. And they do like pics for like cars and boats and stuff like that. So if you do Turo and other things like that, they can get you pics for that as well. But it's pretty nice, man.
Okay. Kevin asked an interesting question here. What if the owner of the house tells you when are you going to come by and check on the house, but you're not in the city or the property? What do we say?
I mean, yeah, that happens all the time. I mean, with these virtual deals, it's extremely common. Now, it's just not going to be me. I'm going to have one of my guys go out to the property. That's usually what I tell them. Hey, I'm going to have one of my guys go out to the property. Let me just confirm with them what time they're going to be available. And then, I'll get right back to you. We'll have someone go out there, something like that, like super, super casual about it. And in fact, like I very often even tell these people, like all of the deals that we have right now that's in Chicago, I got to change up some settings inside of my REI reply account. But like, long story short, I'm contacting them back from a Las Vegas number. I'm literally, and they are asking me like, oh, you're in Las Vegas? Yeah, I'm in Las Vegas, but me and my brothers are investing out in Chicago, So I just reached out to you. I'm always looping, right? So they'll ask a question, but I loop it back to the original purpose or like the next question in the series of questions. So it'll be like, when are you going to come check out those? When are you going to come check out the house? I'll be like, I'm going to have someone come out there and check it out soon. So like, what time would work best for you? I'm always kind of looping it or whatever. I never kind of just leave it out there because then you open up a series of more questions. It's like our brain naturally operates like that to keep asking more and more questions unless you kind of cut it off. Boom.
And you being from Chicago does help a lot. So that's another good part for you. Yeah. If you're virtually wholesaling a place where you grew up, that'd be great.
Right.
MJJ Smooth Criminal asks, great name, Ed, how many deals per month do you do? What is your favorite tool to use and best advice for virtual wholesaling?
Yeah. So like historically, like we tend to average around like 3 to 8 deals per month. It depends. Be completely transparent though. Like, we just started our campaign in April. We had to kind of like start to like shut some things down or whatever, fire some people and stuff like that. So we haven't actually closed the deal like since we started our campaign in April, full disclosure or whatever. But we do have like 10 opportunities in the pipeline right now. And keep in mind, guys, like I'm actually out here buying. I'm cherry picking stuff. I'm not spending all of my energy trying to wholesale properties off to other people. If it's a great deal, I'm trying to buy it myself, and I'm getting private money together as well as hard money and stuff like that. So I'm buying now. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, like historically, typically like 3 to 8 deals per month. Favorite tools to use right now, it's REI Reply, PropStream, Versium Reach, Call Tools, Asana in terms of like a project management software. I'm using Agile for my CRM. I think that's it in terms of systems and stuff like that. And best advice for virtual wholesaling would be to establish some relationships in that virtual market. It makes life a lot easier versus you just kind of getting out there and just winging it or whatever. It's a lot harder when you do that. It's definitely possible still, don't get me wrong, but you'll be better served reaching out to some other wholesalers in that area, reaching out to buyers, reaching out to agents, getting yourself kind of ingratiated with that market.
Great advice, man. Roat says our Velocity Reo is the worst.
Snaps.
He says WeGo Look is better. Have you used WeGo Look at all?
I think I heard someone speaking of it recently, but I haven't actually used either one of the services. I've just been told that Velocity Reos is great from a couple people that I know. They've had people go out from Velocity Reos multiple times. Never had any bad experiences. Said that it was a really good service. So
yeah, I've heard good stuff about them. So you did answer this, but Sergio wants to know again, how many SMS do you use daily?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Serge. I've seen you on the channel before, Serge. Look,
I'm telling you, a lot of our guys here are subscribed to you.
Right. Like, hey, we got some crossover
information, man.
Hey, now. Hey, so how many SMS do I do? We're typically doing 400 per day inside of REI Reply. We throttle the campaign to send 50 text messages every 60 minutes over the course of 8 hours throughout the day from 9 to 5. But we're texting Chicago, so it goes from 11 to 7.
Perfect. Tony says, I'm hiring a VA this week for cold calling. I see you've had experience with hiring and much needed firing. What are the best practices and things to look for in a new VA?
Really, really good question, Tony, for real. Like if a lot more people asked that question before they hire people, they would probably face a lot less heartache. I really, really mean that. So some of the things that I would be looking for is, one, I need to hear what they sound like, especially if you're representing my business on this phone call. There's no exceptions. Like you have to sound kind of American. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like that's a super, super important thing, at least for me and my business. Just because, you know, these biases do exist and you have a foreigner calling your phone, it's more likely that you're just going to hang up on them, at least if they sound foreign. Let's put it like that. So one of the things, like I want to be able to hear some audio files from these individuals, but I also want to hop on a phone call and confirm that the person that like I hear the audio file is actually the person that I'm hiring, because some of these VA companies, the shady ones at least, they'll like send you the audio file from like a really good person, but then they'll have like some crappy person on the phone call. So make sure that you listen to the phone call. It's super important. But outside of that, you know, I want to see that they've actually had some experience, that they actually do this. I'm not ever in life trying to teach someone how to make these calls and da da da. It's just too much. So they need to have experience already, honestly. Like, you know, you want to be a nice guy and stuff like that, but that's not good for business when it comes to, is this person going to be available or able to help you actually grow your business and make money? You want people that are damn near as good as you, if not better, on those phone calls with you than you. Let's put it like that. So it's very, very important that you kind of vet them a lot in the prelim. You want to actually hop on a conversation with them and interview. And I have questions that I ask my cold callers. I think it may be somewhere on my channel where you can just download it for free, like things to ask your virtual assistant before actually hiring them on, and kind of how that cold caller interview process goes. I'm pretty sure that I have that document available for free on my channel.
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah. Good stuff, Tony. RK says, do you have a VA now, or what's going on there?
Yeah, good question. So like actively at the moment, I just recently fired my last VA or whatever. I do need a VA right now. I've been reaching out to some that's going to be like processing our text messaging. I'm pretty much just doing everything in-house between me and my wife right now. It's just us. We're just knocking stuff out. But I desperately need a VA right now. I'm not going to lie. Just being 100% honest. Yeah. I don't have one right now, but I do need one.
Okay. Life with Naya asks, what advice would you give a teen who wants to start virtually wholesaling?
It depends on how old of a teen you are. If I'm assuming that means that you're less than 18, I would say like try to learn as much knowledge as you can, but not to mention like more importantly, like I would recommend like try to get around someone in your area that's actively wholesaling. Just see if you could just shadow them. See if you could just watch them. See if you can just watch them do what they do. So by the time that, you know, you can, Zach, you probably know better. Like, I'm not sure like how the laws are set up. Like, were you doing wholesale deals before you were 18? Yeah, right. Yeah, I thought so.
I had to get an 18-year-old to sign it, and they got the check, and then I had to get the money. So just make sure you have a trusted individual. But yeah, I mean, you can still do it. I mean, you're a lot younger. My voice was so squeaky at 17. It was bad 4 years ago, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure it has its adversities, but it's definitely possible. Get around people who know what they're doing, learn as much as possible, and to just get out there and take action. Look, hey, Zach was out here getting deals as a teenager, so get out here. You got it.
That's it, man. So that's it for the questions for there. RK, thank you guys. Good luck. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But overall, like this has been really eye-opening for me. I think a lot of people took a lot of great gems from you for virtual wholesaling today. And I think it's really cool. But I do think you guys should be subscribed to Ed Hayes, the Wholesale Coach on YouTube. I mean, I've been subscribed to him when I had like 50 subscribers, something crazy low. And definitely still learn from you. So I do appreciate it. So my last question for you on the Backstreeters podcast, I ask the same question every time. But if you had $300 and you were 18 years old, again, let's say in Chicago, or let's say Las Vegas, so you're not licensed, what would you do to become the next Ed Hayes with only $300?
Whew, that's a really good question. I like that. I like that question. So, man, to be honest with you, man, I would bootstrap this thing, man. Honestly, I would probably be doing a lot of very similar things to what I'm doing right now. That's a good question. Let me break it down because I'm about to drop some gems on y'all. I think like if y'all literally get out here, y'all can start this today, what I'm about to drop here. For real. First off, one of the things that I would start to do is that I would, if I don't have the money, right, to actually buy these houses, me personally, first thing I'm going to go do is get the money. I'm going to go find buyers that actually can purchase these houses so I can have quick, smooth transactions. Granted, I'm not going to lie, though. That being said, at the same time, if there was ever a time in like the history to just like get out there and just kind of get some inventory, it probably would be now. I'm not going to lie, just because everyone wants it. It's just like a super shortage of inventory right now. But anyway, I would go out there. I would establish some relationships with some active cash buyers in the area that I'm starting off with in Las Vegas, right? Have some conversations, build up that database of cash buyers. I would be looking for somewhere around 100 to 250 cash buyers. Simultaneously, while I'm reaching out to these cash buyers on a daily basis, I would be hopping on places like Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, and Craigslist every single day looking for other individuals who are already posting deals online. Then from there, so I would pretty much be giving them the opportunity to say yes. I'd be like, hey, look, I got some buyers. Hey, you down to date to JV? I would be trying to scoop up as many of those low-hanging fruit type opportunities as possible, analyze those if possible. If it makes sense, shoot it out to those buyers. From there, I would go ahead and pull me a list. I would grab PropStream. So I would start spending some money. I would go ahead and grab PropStream. I would go ahead and grab REI Reply. $300. I would definitely grab PropStream. I may or may not grab REI Reply just because. I probably would. I mean, to be honest, like it's one of the quickest ways to the bank, and it is one of the cheapest ways to the bank as well. And you can reach out to a lot more people with texting that you can do with other services or whatever. So if I grab PropStream, it would be cheaper to do texting versus cold calling. So I probably would go REI Reply. And then, I would need some skip tracing as well. I would probably have to skip trace these leads manually. Either that or find like a nice little VA from like a Fiverr.com that can do it for the super, super low for you. That's got like thousands of reviews. Don't only go with people that's got thousands of reviews. And then, I would get some text message. I would probably pull like 4,000 or 5,000 leads, depending on, like how many leads I can get skip traced for how much money. I would use REI Reply, get those skip trades, start texting those individuals, and just have some conversations. And I guarantee it, I feel ultra confident that before I know it, I will flip that first opportunity into $5,000, $10,000. From there, I will start doubling down on marketing. I will hire some VAs. Depending on how big that first deal is, if it's like 20 grand, I mess around and put a billboard up in Chicago or get some bench advertising or do train or radio or TV advertising. Just go all the way to the top right at the bat. That's what I would probably do. I've even been thinking about that recently. I'll hear guys like Ryan Pineda are out here on television. You see them on YouTube and places like that. So that's what we want to ultimately be. We want to be scaling up. We want to be moving it up over time or whatever. But I hope that helps or whatever. I would start off with like some quick JV opportunities, and then I would start texting myself. Between those two situations, I would try to get my first deal, double down with that deal to hire on some staff, pull more leads, text more people, and probably start cold calling individuals as well. Bang.
Wow.
Like that.
That's it, man. That's all you need. I mean, that's great gems. Like that's what you do to get a deal. So that's what I would say. Obviously, that person should be subscribed to Ed Hayes, the Wholesale Coach on YouTube. Get all the content they can. You do a lot of videos a week, and you do give a lot of great content. So I do commend you for that. I do appreciate it.
I appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you, man. So really quickly, before we hop off, is there any parting thoughts you have for the audience listening? A lot of people, they're trying to get their first virtual wholesaling deal. They're trying to just make a business where they can just be full-time into wholesaling real estate. What is your advice for these people before we hop off? What are your parting thoughts?
Yeah, man. So I would say, man, like most importantly, and I'm sure that other people have probably stated this before, that like, you really, really got to put in that work, man. It's like you can't make any excuses. Like all of us, if you're looking at this, chances are you're either, well, maybe not everyone, but like you're either a grown man or woman, or you're real close to being a grown man or woman right now. So the world, society does not care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your feelings and your emotions and how hard it is and stuff like that. No one cares. If you want to win, you have to be willing to go through the grit and the grind and the struggles and the, oh man, this sucks. Yeah. That's why not that many people do it. Right. So like that's the whole thing. Just be willing to put in that work. Don't make excuses as a grown man or a grown woman about how hard it is, about your baby daddy, your baby mama, or society, school, whatever it is. Don't make excuses. Get out there and put in the work if you really want it. The only people that actually win are the people that was just like, okay, I know I got to go through all of this, but here's what I'm going to do about it. And I'm going to win. They just wasn't willing to just fold over it and just talk about how hard it is and never actually get anything done. So if you want to get out there, the opportunity is right there, but you can't complain along the way. Get out there and make it happen. No excuses.
Boom. That's it, man. Let's get after it. Ed, thank you so much for hopping on. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, Ed. Remember, guys, you're watching this video. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, and also comment something, a gem you learned in this video. I'd really appreciate it. Ed, thank you so much. Can't wait to have you on next year.
Hey.